Julia here. Right off the bat, I'd like to apologize. My neighbor just started mowing their lawn, so if you hear any background noise, I'm sorry. But today I'm going to be talking about formatting and writing up your copyright page. So I've gotten a lot of questions about how to copyright your book, how to set up a copyright page, and I'm just gonna go through it all for you today. So first off, before you write a copyright page, you need to copyright your book. How do you do that? I'm gonna show you how. It's super easy. I'm gonna put the link in the description. I use a site that is actually directly associated with the Library of Congress. So if you fill it out through this site, then you will get an official certificate saying that your book is copyrighted, and you will actually have your book copyrighted in the Library of Congress with books written by people like Shakespeare and all sorts of famous authors. So it's pretty cool if you get your book copyrighted there. The only bad thing about it is it does cost money, but copyrighting your book is something that is super necessary. So I want to say it's about $100, give or take. I copyrighted A Weighted Soul a while ago, so I don't really remember, but it's, I want to say around 100. Now you may be wondering when is the right time to copyright, and I actually copyright each of my books twice, and here's why. The first time I copyright my book is right before I start giving my book out to beta readers. So no, this is not the finished copy of the book, but when I copyright it the first time, you want to make sure that you have the plot kind of locked into place and all of the main features of the story mostly laid out. You can obviously make changes and everything, but the main structure of the story should be there. That way you don't have to worry if someone accidentally loses a manuscript or someone sees it or they leave it at someone's house. It's not a big deal because it's already copyrighted. The second time I would recommend copywriting your book is going to be at the very final finished draft of your story. That way you have one earlier on when you start giving it out to people, and then once it's finished and done, you can actually update your copyright and then just add it on to the current copyright you have. You can just say that you uploaded a different version of it and you're all good to go. Now, you do have to pay twice, which kind of sucks, but again, it is way better to have that done and finished, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. So I definitely recommend use the link down below. It's pretty straightforward. They have a pretty good turnaround time. Obviously, it might be different with COVID and all that, but it's a great way to do it, and it's pretty straightforward. Now let's get on to the copyright page. Now this I'm constantly kind of tweaking and getting through, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna post the copyright page over here, and I'm gonna go through each section at a time and explain what each part is. Now I'm actually going to be using the A Weighted Soul copyright page for this, so that's what you're going to be looking at. So at the very top you're going to see copyright because it's the copyright page, and then the little copyright C symbol. You can just copy and paste that from Google if you don't have that on your keyboard or in your library. Next up, you're going to want to put your real name. Now I'm writing under a pen name, so you're going to notice that that name does not line up with the name on the cover of my book, but you want to put your official legal name here. Super important. And then last but not least, you could put all rights reserved, because if you do it through the link that I put below, it's going to be a full copyright and all of the rights are owned by you. Next up, you want to put your publishing company information. Now for me, I'm going under a small independent publishing company called Nebula Press, so you can see the way that I just put it out up here, so it says Nebula Press, and then I also provide an email address in case anyone has any copyright concerns. Now, I gotta be honest, I'm not sure what you're gonna do if you are not under a publishing company and you're just an independent provider. You could skip this step and go right to the next line, or if you wanna put something else there, I would recommend looking it up. But for me, and if you're under a small independent publishing branch or something along those lines, put a line like this so you officially put your publishing company. Now, as the author, you have an opportunity to put your links here as well. So for me, I put visit the author's website, and I put my website, and I also put my email address, so I'm directly linking this copyright and this book to myself. Next up is kind of just the standard stuff. So you want to write what edition of the book this is. It's the first edition, so that's why it says the first edition. And then you're going to see two things called ISBN numbers. Now the ISBN number is actually the identification number for your book. If you're looking on the back of the book where it has like the little label and everything, you're going to see that there's a string of numbers. That is your book's ISBN. Now depending on the printing company you use, you can get like an Ingram Spark ISBN number or something along those lines. I get my ISBNs through a company called My Identifiers. I found them super easy. They work great. I actually bulk bought mine, so I bought 10 when I was publishing the Scavenger, I think for like $125, and I've just used them ever since, and it's been great. So I highly recommend using my identifiers. If you want to go more in depth with the differences between getting like an Ingram Spark ISBN versus a My Identifiers ISBN, I recommend Googling that and asking some other people. I just use My Identifiers because it's easy, it's straightforward, and I know it's official. The ISBN 10 versus ISBN 13 is just like the condensed ISBN versus the full ISBN, but you are going to want to put both of them in the copyright page of your book. Next up, you're going to see that there is a paragraph talking about it being a work of fiction and all that good stuff. Now this part I actually was kind of interested about because it's different than you might think. Now this isn't just a paragraph that you can copy and paste from another story. Each of these has to be individually written in some way, shape, or fashion. Now it's possible throughout the dozens of stories that are here that the little copyright blurb is exactly the same, but you are not allowed to copy and paste it. So if you accidentally write it the same, that's one thing, but try to come up with an interesting or engaging way to like rewrite that paragraph. I know it might sound weird to write something that's engaging for a copyright page, but that actually needs to be different from other stories that are out there. So for example, for mine, you'll see at the end I wrote any correlations to real life are purely coincidental. Now, obviously, someone may have written that too, but I added that line and I changed up some of the wording just to make it unique and my own. So look up a couple of examples online and try to think of some ways to kind of rephrase something or to make it unique to your book. Next up, I have the list of all the other people that worked on this book. So for here, we have the cover design and format by Stonebridge Books LLC, which is Mandy Lynn. I've talked about her before, definitely go check her out. Next up, I have the illustrations, which were done by my good friend Karina Magalio. Also check her out, she is pretty awesome. And then you want to make sure that if you have an author photo that was taken by someone other than yourself, you give credit to the person there as well. So unless you're taking a selfie, you're gonna want to put who took your author photo in your copyright page. Last but not least, you're gonna see a string of numbers. Now, the string of numbers is actually pretty cool. I didn't know this at first, but that string of numbers is actually from like old styles of books where they would come out with a ton of different types and tons of different copies. And what people would do, they would actually circle the number of what edition book it is. So if it was their first book, they would circle the number 1. If it was their second or third copy, they'd circle 2 or 3, anything like that. And I always think it's so cool. You don't necessarily have to put that in your copyright page, but I don't know. I kind of like the concept of like someone owning tons of copies of my book and each one of them is like numbered so they know exactly which copy it is. I don't know, I think it's pretty cool. So there you go, those are the main parts of a copyright page. I tried to kind of go through them simply without going too much in depth because the copywriting and like publishing process is very intense and it's very complicated. So if I went super intense on any of those, like it would have taken much longer. But if you have any additional questions and you're still confused or I didn't explain something thoroughly enough, please let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to reiterate or kind of rephrase it for you. You can also go online and look up individual parts yourselves now that you have like an overarching concept of it. Hopefully this helped kind of go through the basics. Thank you guys for stopping by. Bye!